Evolving Hockey put out their contract projections. Who's expected to stay? Who's expected to go? And how much money are they going to get?
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker of the Reef. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Probably part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day, even when they win the draft lottery. So if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch this on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be digging into the money. We're going to be Evolving Hockey this week, put out their contract projections. So we're going to look at which players they expect to stay, which players they expect to go from the Sharks, how much the players that are expected to stay, what their projected contracts look like, and then try to put together a roster and see how much cap space the Sharks will actually have going into this summer. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So, who's staying? Who's going? All right. The Sharks have 17, because they still have Duclair. Well, a couple less. So they have Duclair, Capo Kakinen, Ahochuk. Those guys still, since they were on the Sharks. So taking away those, they have 16 guys who are on this roster who are either a RFA or a UFA. So a quick reminder, UFAs are unrestricted free agents. They are free to sign with anybody that they want. RFAs are restricted free agents. So the Sharks basically have first rights to offer them a contract. Their kind of contracts are pretty limited to kind of based on playing time, incentives, all that fun stuff. But just a gentle reminder. So Luke Kunin, RFA. Philip Zadina, RFA. Calen Addison, RFA. Alexander Barabanov, UFA. Mike Hoffman, UFA. Henry Thrun, RFA. Ty Emberson, RFA. Thomas Bordelot, RFA. Kevin LeBanc, UFA. Jack Stunica, RFA. Jacob Peterson, RFA. Oscar Lindblom, UFA. Ryan Carpenter, UFA. Devin Cooley, UFA. Jacob McDonald and Justin Bailey, both UFAs. Who's expected to leave? I think we know, right? Barabanov, he's going to be gone. We've already heard from Mike Grier. He's already said Barabanov, Hoffman, and LeBanc will become UFAs. I don't expect the Sharks to attempt to re-sign them. Right? Those guys are, poor Barabanov. What could have been, but we knew Hoffman, right? Hoffman didn't have this season. LeBanc has forever been in the doghouse for the Sharks, never lived up to that contract that he signed. All those guys are going to be gone. And then kind of the other guys, so they have Lindblom, Carpenter, Cooley, McDonald, and Bailey all signing elsewhere as UFAs. And even if they do want to resign, all these guys are projected to be vet min contracts. The veteran minimum contract next year is going to be $775,000. So I think that is a slight bump. Yeah, it is a slight bump. Last year, or the 23-24 season, $750,000. Vet min's going to get bumped up to $775,000. Also, I'm sure you're aware, the cap hit, this year was also 775. I'm looking at the wrong line here. So Vetman still 775. My bad. Cap hit, though, is expected to go up to $87,700,000 with a cap floor. So this is the very minimum you have to spend of $64,700,000. So the cap goes up by $4 million. The floor goes up by $3 million. compared to the 23-24 season. So this is all projected. We'll get a final number right before the league calendar starts over on July 1st. But so those are the guys who are expected to go. So that basically means for the Sharks, all their RFAs are expected to resign. So Luke Kunin, Philip Zadina, Henry Thrun, Ty Emberson, Thomas Bordeleau, Jack Studnicka, and Jacob Peterson. So all these guys are expected to sign. And what Evolving Hockey does is they kind of look at, they go through, they look at kind of ice time, production, a bunch of different metrics. They kind of compare them to other contracts, right? And kind of see, okay, this guy kind of fits these boxes, fits this. This is what we kind of project for him to get, right? Kind of compared to other contracts. Of course, inflation's involved as more money is added to the cap, et cetera, et cetera. Evolving Hockey is very, very good at this. One of my favorite times of year, especially if you follow me on social, is seeing kind of comparing what guys actually get, what they get paid to what Evolving Hockey is projecting them to get. And 9 times out of 10, they're pretty darn close to what you expected to get. So let's start going in, because the Sharks do have several players that have 8 projected potential free agents here. So let's kind of start digging into some of these. And we're going to start with the guy who's expected to get the biggest contract out of all of them. As I kind of pull this up here, I didn't. He would be one. Luke Kunin is expected to actually get the biggest contract from the Sharks this offseason. So remember, Luke Kunin does have a qualifying offer of, it's about $3 million. Basically, that is kind of, he would get a 1-year contract worth I'm pulling it up right now. Qualifying offer of $3 million on the dot. So what Evolving Hockey has done here is they are projecting Luke Kunin to get a 3-year contract at $2.1 million. So they have a really awesome, as part of their paid subscription, where they'll basically plot, like, kind of based on his games played, his time on ice, goals, assists, block, like all that stuff that they, kind of they deem are important factors of what kind of gets their, guys paid. And with Kunin, basically, if they signed him to a 1-year deal, it'd be a $1.8 million. Kunin's not going to take that because he could just get a $3 million qualifying offer. 2-year deal at 2 years at 1.9, 3 years at 2.1. If he signed a 4-year deal, it'd be expected to be at $2.8 million AAV. 5-year deal at $3 million. 6-year deal at $3.5 million AAV. 7 years at 3.2. And if the Sharks want to sign Luke Kunin for 8 years, you'd be looking at projected $4.1 million. So, and they kind of take all the numbers here and they look at the probability, and they give it a 26.6% chance Luke Kunin signs a 3-year deal at $2.1 million. So that is kind of what they project him to get. Also, a 26% chance he signs a 2-year deal, which would put them at the $1.9 million. But I'm since that's the most, these are the numbers I'm going to be kind of working with, is what Evolving Hockey is kind of projecting. So Luke Kunin signing at a 3-year deal at $2.1 million. Just accept, like, Luke Kunin is going to resign, right? He is a lot of what Mike Grier likes. He sticks up for his teammates. He plays hard. Yes, does he play way out of position as a second line center? 100% he does. But I think he provides leadership. Right, he's a good guy on and off the ice, all that fun stuff. Good locker room guy, et cetera, et cetera. So Luke Kunin is going to sign a deal. I think the 3 years at 2.1 sounds about right for Kunin. That would actually, less than what he's making right now, and plus give him a little bit of stability for the next couple seasons, so he doesn't have to worry about potentially getting traded if he, doesn't want to be traded. So that kind of sounds about right for Luke Kunin. So we're going to dig into some of the other guys, including Henry Thrun, Ty Emberson, look at some of these projected contracts for them and what Evolving Hockey thinks these guys are going to get paid. And then finally kind of see what the Sharks' potential roster is going to look like and how much cap space they're going to have to spend in free agency. And spoiler, how much money they're going to have to spend just to hit the cap floor. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. If you are looking to build a financial safety net for your family, you need to check out Policygenius. They're the number one online insurance marketplace in the country. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. And the great thing about them is they are able to give you a whole variety of options. They aren't no incentive for them to recommend one insurance or insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head over to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click on the link in the description to get your free insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. All right, so we talked about Luke Kunin. He that's projected to be the biggest contract that a current Sharks member will get re-signed for this offseason. So just for funsies, if you're kind of curious, Anthony Duclair is expected to sign a 4-year deal at $4.9 million. I know there's already a lot of bring Duclair back. We'll talk about that later this summer. I just don't see it personally, maybe. But anyway, let's dig into guys who we expect to be San Jose Sharks next year. So we talked about Luke Kunin, Filip Zadina. Again, Filip Zadina, only 24. He is projected to get a 2-year deal at $1.5 million AAV, 37.5% chance that is kind of where he ends up with that type of deal, which again, I kind of projected him to sign the Fabian Zetterlund deal. 2 years at 1.7, Zetterlund was at 2 years at 1.5 or whatever he was at. 2 years at 1.5. That looks so. Yeah, Zetterlund was at 1.45. This is at 1.5 deal. So likelihood of that is 38%. He could sign another 1-year deal, would put him right around $1 million. Is 27% chance of that, or a 3-year deal are like 1.55% chance. So those are kind of the most likely scenarios for Filip Zadina. But I think that 2-year deal, 1.5, give him a couple years to kind of continue to kind of figure things out here for the Sharks. So I think that feels right on for Zadina. Calen Addison projected to sign a 2-year deal at $1.4 million, 31.5% likelihood for that. Honestly, feels a little rich, especially with kind of Addison's playing time last year. So 32% chance of that, 23% chance he would sign a 1-year deal at right around kind of 1.41 million. But again, that one feels a little rich. If I was a betting man, I would say this one probably goes a little bit under the projection, but just something, to kind of look at here with Addison, especially with some of the other guys in the pipeline here. And we'll talk about kind of how the Sharks defense shakes out here. But I think Mike Grier probably wants a quicker off ramp from the Addison contract, just in case Shakir Mukhamadullin, Jack Thompson, some of these other guys are kind of ready to go right away. So I would say he probably signs a 1-year deal at like $1 million if I had to guess. So Henry Thrun projected to sign a 2-year deal at $1 million. The other day I talked about Henry Thrun, give him the Nikolai Knizhov contract. 41% chance that this is the deal that he signs is 2 years at $1 million. Yeah, I could easily see that, especially with kind of tough season last year, right? But you saw a lot of growth from him. Kind of give him a little bit of a 2-year run here to try to continue to figure things out, as you expect him to be a long-term piece. And then by that time, you're probably either phasing out of the Mario Ferraro contract, whether he's been traded or whatever. And then you can kind of, if you want to give some, that basically kind of pencil in that money for Henry Thrun, potential option right there. So, or again, plenty of cap space coming. So Ty Emberson, he's projected to sign a 1-year deal at basically $1 million, 47.5%. If he signed a 2-year deal, it'd be at like 1.3. I could see, like, if Emberson played all season, I would expect him to get a bigger deal because I thought he played really, really well. But again, your best ability is your availability, and he missed a ton of games with injuries this year. So 1 year, $1 million to kind of like come in, see if you can establish yourself, see if you can stay healthy for the entire season, feels again about right. So Bordeleau, which is an interesting one here. So he's just projected to sign a 1-year deal at $930,000, basically 39% chance of him doing that. Also see him doing a 2-year deal at basically the same AAV, pretty close. Says 37% chance that he would do that. This feels kind of the RFA game, right? Just sign these kind of little 1-year contracts to see what, again, gives you some options where if he performs well, he can maybe earn that payday quickly. If he doesn't, you can kind of get out of this contract quite easily. And I think Bordeleau, played really well down the stretch for the Sharks. We'll see kind of where he fits in. I expect him to be on the opening night roster next year, but again, it seems kind of a fair contract compared to what you kind of see for players who just quite haven't established themselves yet. So Jack Studnicka expected to sign a 1-year deal at $830,000. It's basically 70% chance. Makes sense to me. You can send them down to the minors, pass them through waivers at that contract and bury the whole thing. And the same thing with Jacob Peterson, also expected to sign a 1-year deal, about $820,000, 72% chance. So those are the projected Sharks contracts that they're going, expected to hand out this off season, at least for their RFAs. And I hit the wrong button here. So my bad. So, but yeah, it's, as you can see, like, Mike Grier doesn't have no big contracts for them to have to kind of hand out this year because, right, you've been playing a lot of young guys on these ELCs or your, kind of very cheap contracts. And none of these guys have kind of warranted that big contract yet. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how Mike Grier handles these guys stay and which guys don't. Calen Addison's the one I'm keeping an eye on, especially as we'll kind of get into the rosters here and where he kind of fits in. If I had to guess one guy who maybe doesn't, Studnicka or Peterson, like you could potentially see that as well. But like kind of one guy who played a lot for the Sharks last year, it would be Calen Addison. He's just kind of the guy I'm keeping an eye on here. And we'll have plenty. We can kind of discuss this Sharks defensive logjam at some point. But he's the guy I'm looking at because I wouldn't be too happy if they signed him to that type of deal, especially when you have Jack Thompson, who I really like Jack Thompson's game. And then you have Shakir Mukhamadullin, who I think both have better two-way games than Calen Addison. So So yeah, we'll take a look at what I kind of project the Sharks roster, look at how much cap space they're expected to have, how much cap space they need to spend to get up to the cap floor. So we'll get to that here in just 1 minute. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build yours. So when you're hiring, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring tool that can help you do it all. We streamline hiring the powerful tools to help you find match candidates, and with Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. So join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 job sponsor credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. So what does the Sharks roster look like? So I made two rosters thanks to our friends over at Cap Friendly. Again, I don't know where the hockey world would be without Cap Friendly. So I made a Celebrini list roster. I made a roster with both Celebrini and Will Smith, so we can kind of see what their cap space looks like, see kind of what the roster looks like, and what work Mike Grier needs to do this offseason. So we will start with the no Celebrini roster. So I'll pull this up here right now on, if you're watching on YouTube. So I re-signed all the guys to their projected contracts from Evolving Hockey. So with a roster size of 20, so the Sharks will still have plenty of work to do to fill out this roster. Salary cap of 87.7. It didn't update all the way. My bad. Let me update that right now. 87.7 million. Cap hit of 56 million. That's including all the dead money. Remember, the Sharks have about $7 million in dead money from Martin Jones buyout, Brent Burns retained, Erik Karlsson retained, and Tomas Hertl retained. So they got about $7 million in buyout space. So they have a cap space. So Celebrini lists $31 million in cap space. Remember, the cap floor was $64 million. So they need to spend $8 million in cap space just to get to the cap floor. So just like the Sharks have to sign people this offseason, unless they want to give like Luke Kunin like a 1 year, like $10 million contract or something like that, which one would be hilarious. Like they're going to have to sign guys this offseason because they don't have enough cap space, right? You have so many cheap contracts with Zetterlund, who's underpaid, right? Eklund is on his ELC. Borlo is going to be on a cheap contract. Giovanni Smith's on a cheap contract. Even Nico Sturm, $2 million. Like Couture is making $8 million. Granlund is making $5 million. And Fabian Zetterlund, Vlasic is making $7 million. And everybody else is basically like, under $4 million. Most of these guys are like $2 million or less. So right now, my roster, the Sharks don't even have enough forwards to make a lineup. These are just kind of based on guys who were, on the team to end last year. So, if Gushin, et cetera, like these guys, plenty of space for the Sharks. The defense, though, re-signing everybody, 8 defenders, right? You have Ferraro, Benning, assuming Benning comes back for being healthy, Vlasic, Calen Addison, Henry Thrun, Ty Emberson, Kyle Burrows, and Jan Ruda, and then your goalies of Mackenzie Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek. So the Sharks have some work here to do on this roster to definitely make it, one, cap compliant, and 2, just to kind of fill out the roster here, unless you want to run Giovanni Smith as your center and Kyle Burrows and Jan Ruda as your wings. That'd be really fun. So what about, I know what you're saying, right? What about our shiny new toy, Macklin Celebrini? So what happens if the Sharks bring him and Will Smith on? So what does that roster look like here? Oh man, that is looking goofy. So project roster size of 22. Again, re-signing all the same guys. I sent Studnicka and Peterson down to the AHL because I think that's where they will kind of start the season. I think that's kind of their spots. Same thing, right? You're going to have the same buyout or kind of dead money. But adding Macklin Celebrini, whose ELC this year will be 800 or 975,000. So for draft year, that the 2024 draft, that's what their ELC is. Will Smith's ELC will be 950 with his draft year being last year. So here's I actually have like a real roster here. Roster size of 22. So you can technically add one more person. So I have Will Smith, Mikael Granlund, Fabian Zetterlund as the first line, Eklund, Celebrini, Klim Kostin. Your second line, Bordelot, Couture, Zadina as your third line, Giovanni Smith, Nico Sturm, and Luke Kunin as your fourth line. Again, you can still have another winger. You still have another forward, right? And then the same kind of defense and goaltending here. So, and again, cap space of $58 million. So the Sharks would still need to spend $6 million basically to get up to cap compliance. $29 million in cap space. Again, unless you want to sign Luke Kunin to an 8-year deal, or $8 million deal, which would be hilarious. Get your money, Luke Kunin. 1 year, $8 million deal. That would be awesome. Just to get the Sharks cap compliant. But yeah, so that's kind of what the roster would look like. I think if the Sharks do that, you're going to have to see. Interesting to see kind of how they finagle this. If Giovanni Smith is potentially like a scratch, if he maybe they try to run him through waivers, with some of these, right? Because Eklund's going to be an everyday player. Bordelot, we're projecting him to kind of make the roster, especially after how strong he finished the season last year. And then whoever you bring in for, in free agency. So that's kind of where the Sharks would sit at right here. So again, Mike Grier's going to have some work to do this offseason. Like he's going to have to sign players again, the biggest contract he has handed out so far is the Mario Ferraro contract at 4 years at $3.25 million. I know he doesn't want to break the bank yet, right? He's kind of, when you draft all these high-end guys and you project them to be well, you have to pay them at some point. So I don't expect him to kind of go crazy right now with the cap space, but he's going to have to sign some players here just to, one, get cap compliant, and two, to actually put out a roster for the Sharks. So yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to actually talk about real free agents this offseason and kind of where they fit in and who's potentially available. So we'll start digging into that here a little bit here at Locked On Sharks. We'll continue to hammer the draft. So we did a Trevor Connolly profile yesterday. We'll continue to kind of button up those guys who are going to be in that 14 range. So got a couple more of those here coming up, and then we'll start to hit the end of the first round, beginning of the second round guys, with the Sharks having 2 picks at the beginning of the second round, but pick 33 and pick 42. And start profiling some of those guys. We'll have some bigger conversations with the draft. So plenty of good stuff here at Locked On Sharks. This is like my favorite time of the year because it's getting into, again, the team has been so bad. It's fun to talk about, okay, how do we make this team better, right? And this is how you do it. You draft well, you make smart signings, and you hope that you're able to kind of develop these guys. So we were bad. We're hoping that we're drafting well, working on the development. Now, can we make some smart signings? Because the Sharks have plenty of cap space to do whatever they want. And kind of prioritize whoever they want. So we'll dig into that. Look at potentially trading the 14th pick if you wanted to go big game hunting. Go look at some options there here soon as well. So make sure you guys are keeping it locked in here at Locked On Sharks, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until Monday. Bye, friends.